Good day, I am glad to be a participant in the conference and I would like to thank the organizers for the possibility to introduce our research. My name is Tetiana Orlenko. I am working at the Scientific Center for Aerospace Research of the Earth. Today I'd like to talk about satellite-based technology, accessing Ukraine's ecology under the war. The ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, which started in 2014, primarily occurs in eastern Ukraine. However, particularly intense combat operation occurs in southeastern part of Ukraine within the Donetsk and Luhansk region, which have suffered extensive destruction. It is territory that we know as Donetsk coal basin located, which has been in operating more than 150 years. Since the early 19th, restructuring the mine within the Donetsk basin began, accompanied by the closure of unprofitable mines. The predominant methods for mine closure is the wet conservation, which involves flooding them. This process has a significant impact on the surrounding environment. The flooding of mines leads to an increase in groundwater levels and the submersion of substantial areas. As the mines are incorrected, though underground workings, extensive areas contain industrial facilities and residential buildings have been affected by flooding. Consequently, monitoring the natural water levels has become an essential task in our time. The continuous monitoring of groundwater level is the great importance in the context of studying the natural environment. Unfortunately, since the start of the war in Donbass in 2014, Ukraine has been facing a lack of opportunities for ongoing environmental monitoring in this territory for 9 years. Due to significant portion of area being under occupation, access to reliable sources of information is limited. In such conditions, remote sensing data can become the sole methods for monitoring the Donbass region. To achieve this, we turned the availability library of Landsat satellite imagery data, which contains information dating back to 1950, to develop a methodology for assessing the flooding of the territory associated with coal mine closure. One of the primary tools we employed in our research was spectral indices for measuring soil moisture, also known as water indices. The objective of our research was to develop a methodology to assessing the flooding of the territory associated with mine closure based on the utilization of satellite data. Our investigation aimed to establish a practical approach to using these images for evaluating the level of flooding and the impact of mine closure on an adjacent area. The main goal of our work was to develop some algorithms and processing methodologies for satellite imagery to detect and measure changes in terrain and soil indicative of flooding. Satellite data were analyzed and interpreted to obtain objective results regarding to the state of territory flooding and its dynamics. Our research findings can serve as a basis for developing effective management strategies and minimizing the consequences of flooding resulting from mine closure. During the development of the methodology, data related to the region of Donbass main anticlinal were utilized. The slide presents a list of geological elements that were investigated, including scheme of applicative structure of Donbass. This include significant anticlinals, synclinals, as well as adjacent uplift and depressions, which are of considerable importance for studying geological processes in the region. We have major fault scheme. This scheme illustrated the location of crustal fractures that can shape the relief and influence hydrological processes. Digital elevation model, or DEM, it represents a numerical representation of changes in height of the Earth's surface and allow us for the study of special variation in the terrain, which can be associated with flooding processes. And topographic maps. These maps provide detailed information about the landscape, including geomorphological features, hydrological objects, and other geographical characteristics that help determine distribution of soil moisture and potential flood zones. For studying the research object, we utilized the geological map with a scale of 1 to 200,000, and this provides detailed information about the geological formation and their distribution in the investigated area. Additionally, to gain a more comprehensive understanding of the object condition, we employed Landsat satellite imagery. The utilized images was generated by synthesing the sphere, near and red channels, which has a special resolution of 30 meters, allowing for detailed data of the research area, including its water resources, geomorphology, and surface processes. The use of this data source enables us to obtain consolidated cartographic information about the geological feature and civilization appearance of the territory. During the research, we utilized a mapping scheme, which called Map Scheme of Predicted Depths of Underground Water Levels. That map was obtained based on numerical modeling of geofiltration according to the work of Ulitsky. This map scheme illustrates the depths of underground water levels, and the maps include the following indicators. First, its catchment area and geofiltration model area. From 2 to 5, its level of underground water. And the second, its level about 0 meters. Third, its level about 1 to 3 meters. Fourth, it's from 5 to 10 meters. And 5, it's more than 10 meters. In our research, we utilized data on groundwater levels. It was level 2, approximately 0 meters, corresponding to the nearest underground water levels to the surface, and level 5, more than 10 meters, representing the deepest water level for the dry territory. To assess the possibility of using water indices as indicator of flooding in Donbas region, we compared the distribution of values of 5 known water indices within the territory with groundwater levels of approximately 0 meters and greater than 10 meters. The statistical Kolmogorov-Smirnov criterion was used for the comparison of distribution. The result of comparison presented in the table. According to the obtained data, the most informative water indexes for areas with forest vegetation and areas with open ground was found to be the SW shortwave infrared index. For region with forest vegetation and open ground, this water index has value 12.3 and 22.1. Assessing flooding of the territory, we proposed to use known as moisture index, which are established based on multiple satellite imagery. The analysis of the possibility of using of 5 moisture indices, it was disaster water stress indices, normalized different infrared indexes as W shortwave infrared index, reclamation drought index, and normalized water index. That proved that we could use all of them to assess the flooding of territories. Comparing the distribution of the values of the specified indices within dry areas where the depth of groundwater is more profound than 10 meters and flooded areas where the depth of groundwater is from 0 to 3 meters was performed using the well-known statistical criterion lambda for Kolmogorov-Smirnov. As a result of comparison, it was established that all 5 water indices could be used to select flooded areas. The ranking of humidification indices according to their capabilities, which was based on the analysis of the value of lambda criterion, showed that SW indices characterized by the most significant capabilities, both for areas covered with woody vegetation and for areas with open ground. Therefore, the possibility of using of remote sensing data to assess the flooding of the territory of Donbass due to the mass closure of coal mines, so the so-called wet conversation has been established. And thank you for your attention.